Hi there, my name is Kyle Hirschfeld, and I'm here to talk to you about Pedlar and Divinity, George Whitefield, and the Great Awakening from 1737 to 1745. This is an article by Frank Lambert, and he was writing about George Whitefield in terms of George Whitefield's marriage of economic and religious terms, specifically in George Whitefield's entrepreneurial spirit to promote Calvinist ideas. So Lambert starts by analyzing Whitefield's relationship with a man named William Seward, who he meets during his time in England, in London, during the 1730s. William Seward, he's a promoter for newspapers. He teaches Whitefield how to sell himself, basically. He teaches him ideas of marketing, of advertising. And Whitefield, being a prolific author and writer, goes gangbusters out of this. His sermons, everything he writes, wind up becoming syndicated. And this is on both sides of the Atlantic. So over the course of the next 20 to 30 years, Whitefield winds up being a completely syndicated author with weekly articles coming out, both written by him and written about him. And this helps to spread his revivalist message. He is very much a writer and preacher of the Great Awakening. One of the relationships that he develops is with Benjamin Franklin, and Benjamin Franklin, well, he's an entrepreneur himself, and he's trying to sell newspapers. He recognizes that George Whitefield is, a fantastic writer. He's a fantastic speaker, and he's got this huge following, and people want to know about George Whitefield. So Franklin and Whitefield developed this pseudo partnership where anything Whitefield writes about, heck, Franklin will print it. So they become, well, if not friends, then at least really close acquaintances. And this is a very mutually beneficial relationship, and it results in Whitefield becoming rich in both monetary gain and in followers for his Calvinist ideas. And this results in a couple of various negative ways. Firstly, it inspires jealousy, specifically in the person of Jonathon Edwards. In Ava Chamberlain's article, The Grand Sower of the Seed, Jonathon Edwards' Critique of George Whitefield, Chamberlain lays out the idea that Edwards, who had invited Whitefield to come speak to his parish in Northampton, did not really take to Whitefield's ideas and style. Whitefield, after leaving Northampton after four sermons, said that it was a completely successful conversion. Everyone there was now fervently and ardently Christian. There were tears flowing from the parishioners. Everything was magical. But Jonathon Edwards says otherwise. He says that these parishioners were never really that into God in the first place. They were, to quote him, wayside hearers, and this is from Matthew 13:4, which he used in a sermon to attack Whitefield. He also says, Edwards does, that sudden conversions are often false. Tears drawn by Whitefield or no, these people weren't really that religious in the first place. So odds are good that they're not going to wind up staying Christians unless they listen to Edwards' sermons, in which case they will stay Christians forever. Another group that didn't take well to Whitefield's teachings and preachings were the anti-revivalists. One of the groups which really didn't like Whitefield's ideas, specifically because he was Calvinist, were the Baptists. Whitefield, upon preaching in Charlestown, and this is according to Fred Witzig in The Great Anti-Awakening, Anti-Revivalism in Philadelphia and Charlestown, South Carolina from 1739 to 1745. In Charlestown, Whitefield was invited to preach at a meeting house that was a dissenting meeting house to his own ideas. This was a Baptist meeting house. He's up there, he's preaching, he's getting his word out, and the Baptist parishioners just stonewall him. listen to his sermon and none of them, they don't react. Whitefield doesn't write about this, and of course he doesn't, because it's not a successful conversion. But it just goes to show that in spite of his attempts and in spite of his enormous success, he was not always successful. That is not at all to say that he was not an entrepreneur by any means. He was absolutely successful, and Lambert goes out to great lengths to show that Whitefield, in fact, was a very forward-thinking person who really presaged figures like Charles Grandison Finney and Billy Graham, in that he was marrying economic terms with religious ideas and really promoting those religious ideas through economic means. So that is George Whitefield to me.